Ministering on different aspects of where the Messiah is found in the book of Isaiah as we walk through this. Last week, I started a message dealing with some aspects of kind of an overview of this book, and I found myself studying this week like there's so much of an overview of this book that I'm frankly still in an overview this morning and kind of giving some details about what this book is about and where it's going. And so that's what I'm going to do this morning. And one of the things that I had talked about last week, and in fact that I want to mention this morning as well, is last week we talked, near the end of the message, I talked a little bit about Isaiah seeing the Lord on his throne. And when he saw him in his holiness, he had a great fear of God, a great revelation. When he saw God in his holiness and his purity, he was a man who was undone. And his words were, I am a man of, a little louder, I am a man of unclean lips. There was this fear that came over him because of God being God and God being an authority. And so I got to tell you a story that happened with me 2 weeks ago, where I had fear, but I took a risk, and with authority as well, with a policeman. Policewoman, actually, it happened to be. And so I was right over here. I was coming this way on Greenwood over here, and I'm driving along, and I come up in the right lane, and up a ways ahead of me, there was a police car, and they had their left brake light was not working. And I prayed for them. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, my first thought was, I would like to tell them they have a brake light out. But how do you tell a policeman they're driving illegally? You know, I didn't want to say those words, but anyway, so my wheels were turning. I'm not in the car, on me. And I'm driving along, and I got in the right lane, and I was glad that the light turned red up by Costco, and I pulled up in the right lane, and the police cars in the left. And I drove up, and the windows on their car were tinted, so I couldn't see in. And so I drive up, and here's a police car, and their light's out, and I want to tell them. It just kind of rises within you like, I need to really inform them and set them straight, if you know what I mean. So I drive up, and there was a space in front of my car, so I didn't go up in the next car. I parked beside this car, even though I had room between there and the next car. I pulled up, I looked at the window, and I couldn't see in, and I went, I rolled my window down. The weather was nice. I said, roll your window down. And then I could see a figure in there looking at me kind of like, are you safe? So they rolled their window down while I had my arm out, and I said, and I looked, and it was a woman policeman. And she goes, yes, can I help you? And I said, I just wanted to let you know your left brake light is not working. And she said, oh, thank you so much for giving me that information. And then my wheels continued to turn. And she goes, thank you so much. I said, no problem. I said, I'll mail you the ticket. And then I smiled. She knew I was joking. It's good I didn't do it with it. Hey, I'll mail you the ticket. I didn't do that. I went, I'll mail you the ticket. And then I smiled, and she looked over to the right, and she goes, thanks. And I drove on, and I thought, it's a good time to quit talking right then. Why do I share that story? Because I thought it was funny, first of all. And it was fun to do that. But I did it with some fear and trembling, because I thought, they're a higher authority than me in certain areas, and you kind of want to be careful what you say to a police officer. And then as I'm studying, I'm thinking about Isaiah, and I'm thinking about him driving up to the throne of God. He didn't roll the window down and say, hey, you better fix something, God. In fact, just by him having just the sight of God, he was undone, and he saw, this is an awesome God to be revered. And he said, I am undone, woe is me, I'm a man of unclean lips. And then something comes and brings a hot coal and puts on his lips and sears his lips, because you are a man of unclean lips, and this will remind you that God is holy, and you need his holiness. This whole book of Isaiah is kind of set in the tone of that incident, where there's 6 chapters, and it's not till the 6th chapter that Isaiah has this vision of God. And then it's at that point the Lord sends him to go, and who will go for me? He said, here am I, send me. And so he says at that point he's going to prophesy to the people of Israel, calling them back. And last week, remember, we talked that Isaiah prophesied for about 40 years, and his message was pretty much rejected the whole 40 years. What a wonderful ministry that would be, you know? I mean, that would be so hard to be faced with that kind of, don't want to hear it. And yet, that's how the people were and how they were responding. So this morning, what I want to do is, I'm going to just give you a little overview, then I'm going to a couple sentences, and then I'm going to hand out a paper here for you. Last week, we started on Isaiah. And the book is considered an overview of the Bible. The first 39 chapters, a reflection of the Old Testament. The last 27 chapters reflecting the New Testament. Because there are 66 books in the Bible, and so the chapters in Isaiah are a reflection of that. 39 Old Testament books, 27 New Testament books. And as you look at the book, you find an awesome God, a holy, holy, holy God who desires to have close fellowship with his people Israel. And he goes to all kinds of extents and acts to reveal himself and to call Israel to respond to him. And yet so often, so many times, they rebel and go their own way. So today as we begin, I'm going to have us cover a few themes in the book of Isaiah to again help us to begin to have an overview of where this book is going. And so, but I'm going to start in kind of a strange way. This isn't strange necessarily. I'm going to have you guys hand these papers out if you would. Tim, you want to give me a hand? So I'm going to have you hand these out, and you can just hold these for now. But as I studied this, I was personally deeply impacted by the whole thing of God's holiness. And so as I'm studying last night, it was getting late, and I was going through some things, and the Lord just moved my heart in the area of his holiness. And I began just to have tears of, God, you're awesome. You are holy. This morning, I studied some more, and I came across a song, and I'm going to have Jason play the song for me, for us. An old hymn you guys have all heard 100 times. I grew up singing Holy, Holy, Holy. And I still remember as a kid, I used to stand beside 2 guys and sing. Both of them are 1 year older than me. And Tim Bontrager and I were in the same church. He was a year younger than me. And so we probably were standing in the same row together singing. But I like to stand by Dennis Nice and Larry Hamilton beside me, 2 young guys. We were probably 12, and we all loved to sing. And we sang in a church with no instruments, and it was all 4-part. And so they were harmonizing, I was harmonizing, and we were all singing Holy, Holy, Holy. And the presence of God, I remember, and I just have to say that I know of situations where people idolize 4-part singing music more than they worship the one they're singing about. But I have to say, one of the things that put in me a deep love for God was worship and music, even as a child. I loved it. And then in the 8th grade, my mom and dad, 7th and 8th grade, my mom and dad had me take organ lessons. And I took organ lessons, and in the summer, the windows were open, the doors were open. Gil had the pedal to the metal on the organ, and I was in there singing songs as loud as I could. The poor neighbors, I mean, it had to be really obnoxious, but I had this heart and passion to sing and worship God. One of the songs that I loved then and I love now is Holy, Holy, Holy. And so this morning, I'm going to play this. I've already put this on the church Facebook page if you want to watch this later too. But I'm doing this song now because I want the spirit of this song to be the background of where we're going as we even talk about this subject this morning. So, Jason, go ahead. And then when we get done, I'll probably start talking and you can play it again quieter as I share some more, just for the sense of